Hey, what's up? Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Tea Time with Pink Crochet 8. Okay, so for the tea, this is not tea. so, yeah, today I'm trading in tea for some lemon water because I'm dehydrated, and tea may dehydrate you even more. It's like drinking coffee, and if you're dehydrated, then it's probably best not to drink any of them. So today, the tea time drink is actually water and lemon. And the snack for today, compliments of my daughter, is popcorn with nutritional yeast on it. So for those of you who don't know what nutritional yeast is, it's an alternative for cheese for people who are vegan. So because we try to follow a kosher diet, sometimes we get cravings for cheese. And like, you can use that nutritional cheese to mix with beef, and it won't you won't break our kosher dieting. I mean, we can't go 100% full on kosher because in Hawaii it's hard to get kosher meat, but we try to stick to the kosher diet as best as we can, and it hasn't been much of a struggle. It's actually been a blessing. Yes, although I'm getting chubby, it's not because of what I'm eating, or because it's not because of what I'm eating. So if you look at my diet, and if you actually if you spent a day with me and you ate what I ate, and you ate everything I cooked and everything that I made, then it's actually really healthy. It's just life is kind of stagnant for me right now because I am hesitant to leave my apartment because someone keeps someone keeps breaking into it. So it makes it hard for me to leave my place because I don't want anything to happen. I don't know, you think about the typical things like, what are they tampering with, and it's just kind of keeps me locked in at home. So either someone is always at home. And so it's a bit hard to be more active because I am normally a really active person. I like to go on hikes, I like to go on runs. I hate running, but I like to go on runs. That's the quickest way that I can actually lose weight. I mean, if I needed to lose weight really drastically, then definitely running would be my first option because that's how I lose weight quickly. And I don't know what it is. It kicks in my metabolism, and I just drop really quick. I like to go to the gym, I like to go to the beach, and all of those things are being at a standstill because, one, it feels like someone keeps tampering with my cars, and two, obviously someone's been breaking into our apartment. So it's like, I feel like, how it feels to be in a really bad relationship where the person that you're in a relationship that you're in a relationship in doesn't want you to go anywhere. Very controlling. It kind of feels like that, kind of feels like that because it feels kind of weird. I mean, just to talk about it, it sounds kind of crazy, but this is the kind of reality that I'm kind of living with right now. And even people, when they hear the story, they're like, nah, it cannot be that bad. But when they start, if they're with me, when they spend a day with me, then they realize, bro, strange shit happens. And even for electronic shit and stuff like that. So it's like, just unusual things happen, and it makes me wonder, is this an ex-boyfriend or is it my ex-husband that's causing trouble? I don't know what it is. So that's kind of, for ladies, that's kind of the downfall of dating. Like, you don't know if you end up dating a psychotic person, because I've had my fair share of dating crazy and they don't look crazy. They actually look sane. Like, you date, they look sane, they look okay, but when it came to the breakup part, they were super, super crazy. I mean, it was bad enough that I had to deal with hate from girls, other females, but then these other females didn't understand that I had to go through a lot of stuff with the guys, you know, the guys that I rejected, the guys that I didn't, you know, that I didn't feel I was attracted to, and of course the guys that I you know, broke up with. I mean, it's not as great as most females, most of those females thought it would be or was. It wasn't. I had my fair share of crazy. So, and I think crazy just doesn't want to leave me alone. So, I had said something yesterday that I need to make a correction on, or maybe not need to make a correction on, but need to clarify. So yesterday I said that the traditional election day polling places in Hawaii were not going to be available. Yeah, that's facts. But I also added that, you know, they're looking for a loophole to get around the law that was just recently implemented, which it hasn't. It was actually passed through the House, but currently sits in the Senate. So the Save America Act passed the House, which means the House up in Congress did not kill the bill, kill that law. They pushed it into the Senate, and that's where it sits. So if that law gets passed in the Senate prior to this election, prior to the 18th of November, or is it the 13th? The 8th, that's where I got 18 from. Prior to the 8th of November, then they will have to open up traditional polling places. See, so at least August 8th, November 3rd, right? So at least those in the Senate who have that act on their table, in their office, they know what to anticipate. They know that there's going to be cheating. And if they pass that act, then they will actually save themselves. Actually, they'll create a voting system that has a little more integrity. Because currently, I don't think just allowing anybody to cast ballots through email or through mail would be secure enough. You know, all we need is a weak leader, and other countries can take advantage of us. And see, that was the problem with the prior cabinet. The prior cabinet, we had President Joe Biden, and I'm not saying he was a weak leader, because he paid his dues in the Senate. He was a lifelong politician. But what they did to him was unacceptable. Because how could his health decline so quickly? While he was during the beginning of his campaigning, he was saying while he was with President Obama, he was kind of sharp. But what happened to him between that time and the time that he sat in office? What happened to this man that made his health deteriorate so fast? You know, it's like he was given some kind of get old quick pill, and his mental instability just went south. And that's where he was taken advantage of. So all of these impeachment processes, or the president's with President Trump in his first term, they were claiming that he was mentally unstable, when it was actually Biden that was mentally unstable. And that's when they should have impeached him. But, you know, it's obvious that at that time, both parties, one was benefiting from it, and the other party was just too nice to impeach him, you know? Because I guess they had a heart. They're like, nah, he's actually mentally unstable, but I feel bad for him. You know. And you know, it's really sad when you have people that fight dirty like that. It's sad when you have people that fight dirty like that. You know, they totally took advantage of this man who wasn't in his right mind. And now the last thing we need is another person voted into that seat that is genuinely incompetent. We have a lot at stake, especially with this war going on. We have a lot at stake, especially with all the fraud claims coming up. No doubt that everyone who's participated in the fraud is looking for a way out. I mean, maybe right around the corner with the votes. So, my correction is that one, this Save America Act hasn't been passed. It's actually sitting in the Senate, and I haven't followed it to know when they'll take votes on it. But I really do hope that they also pass this act, because then we can have more confidence in the voting system that things are fair. Now, let's get into some heavy. So this month is April. April is, yes, this month is April. But April April is a sexual abuse awareness month. And sexual abuse awareness is something that most people don't want to talk about, but especially when it comes to sexual abuse or any type of sexual deviance. But it's something that actually has to be talked about, because it's becoming more common. It's becoming more common, but it's hidden in the dark. You know, after the whole Diddy Epstein situation, you know, the world was exposed. It was exposed to the world that these deviances do happen. Okay, now that's sexual abuse, sexual assault on a freaking higher scale. Okay, you have a bunch of people who are just indulging themselves in sexual acts. It's kind of like what happened to Rome before Rome fell. So Rome established this secret hidden fantasy location, and it was called Pompeii. And at Pompeii, they would have all these, you know, sexual deviant fantasy acts, men with men, women with women, women being used as, you know, sex slaves, and young boys being used as sex slaves. These things go back into ancient times. And the Romans at that time, back in history, was the first to establish this fantasy island called Pompeii. Now, yes, like Pompeii as in the olive oil, Pompeii. Pompeii, Pompei. So Pompeii is under the ocean currently. What happened was there was a huge earthquake, volcano erupted, and Pompeii sank under the ocean. But exactly what occurred with Epstein on Epstein's Island was the same that occurred in Pompeii. So it was only for elites. It was only for the wealthy. It was only for the influential. And it was a disgusting orgy of fantasies. Now, unlike Epstein's Island, Pompeii was well known, and it was a fantasy location that people knew about and they had access to, and it wasn't against the law. And so personally, I think the laws of God apply no matter what, whether laws of man align themselves with it or not. And I think God just said, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna destroy them and destroy their island. Because in the midst of their sexual deviances, like I said, there was an earthquake, there was volcanoes, ashes flew up, people were petrified in ashes is like statue. And the whole Pompeii sunk underground, and it's a real place. Archaeologists, they dived on, they actually found it. They found Pompeii under the ocean because it sank. God sank Pompeii. And it tells you, it's a confirmation that sexual abuse has always been a situation and an issue, and has always been hidden in the darkness. So when I say it was open to people, people knew about it, but nobody could access it. Only the elites. Nobody really knew what was going on in there unless you were part of the elites. And I guess the archaeologists found facts through the people who were petrified in the ashes, what was really going on. And because, you know, history leaves evidence. And no matter how much you try to delete history, you know, somehow history will surface and, you know, facts will come out. And then, of course, there were tales and things it was written about, perhaps, but, you know, it was exposed that these types of sexual deviances occurred. Now, the nonprofit organization that I work with is an organization that focuses on sexual abuse prevention. And I'm coming on with you to share our first and the first parent guide to sexual abuse prevention. So last month sometime, my daughter and I, we got together and we were having our meeting, and we came up with the idea to create a parent guide to protect children so that their families, these parents can be aware of what the red flags are and what to do if, God forbid, their child was a victim of sexual abuse of some sort. Now, like I said, we partnered up with SATC. That's not a like we're not promoting each other's organization, but we work together. So I sent SATC, the Sexual Abuse Treatment Center, our parent guide, as well as our website. So if you go onto our website, we have web classes, we have online classes to teach community members about, one, how to spot a sexual predator, and two, some of the laws about that can help protect you here on the island in Hawaii. So your laws are state specific. You know, if it's state specific, that means it'll change in different states. Unless it is federal, which covers everything, the nation, then you'd have to figure out what laws pertain in what states. Some states allow other things that other states don't. So when it comes to sexual abuse, we provide some of those laws and some of those procedures to help you if you have been a victim of sexual abuse, or how to spot a sexual predator before, to prevent yourself from becoming a victim or prevent your family member from becoming a victim. Now, there are vulnerable populations, and those are the ones that we actually want to target because they're the ones that are most likely to be victims. However, in this generation, it kind of seems like it doesn't matter. Socioeconomics kind of don't matter. You know, we're finding that it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. Even if you were rich from a good family, your child or yourself might still be a victim. You know, these predators have changed. They don't discriminate anymore. They just look for the vulnerable. I mean, in that case, yeah, they do discriminate, but they're looking for vulnerability. And that's what we teach. We teach you how to not be in that vulnerable circumstance, but we also teach you how to be aware of your surroundings. Now, for our parent guide, and yes, HTPH also has a Facebook website, which I'm going to also share this on. But today you guys get special treatment. So our parent guide, the first thing we do is we define what sexual abuse is. Now in 2023 there was an occurrence that actually, you know, was the reason why we created this sexual abuse prevention nonprofit organization. It was a situation that happened with a job that I worked at, and the women there were being sexually abused. But that was not the first sexual abuse cases that I experienced and I witnessed. There were several, and that's another reason that, you know, moved me. That's another motivation that moved me to create this sexual abuse nonprofit organization. All of our information, all of our workshops, all of our education is free to the public. We want to provide more coordination. I've worked with several families to provide coordination, but it's really hard when you're limited with finances. So we don't have, we haven't been taking donations just yet, and we don't have, we're working on the grant part. So a lot of the materials are being bought out of my pocket to get this organization running. Yeah. So it's hard to keep up with donating to a lot, especially when you have so little. But, you know, we find a way if our heart is in it. Now, if you are a parent, I want you to pay attention. This is not legal advice. This is just general information. Okay? So the definition of sexual abuse in 2023, there was no definition, no legal definition in 2023 prior to that. But I guess my big mouth likes to make a lot of noise. And they amended it in 2024. So in 2024, without me knowing, and it was on my website that I had, Hawaii doesn't have a definition. So it kind of made me look like I was lying, right? Because I didn't know, I wasn't aware that they amended it and they actually gave it a definition. So in 2023, I found out they had no definition for sexual abuse in the state of Hawaii, or assault in the state of Hawaii. And then in 2024, they amended it and they created a definition. However, my website was running into 2025 and I didn't update it. So it kind of made me look like a liar, but I wasn't lying. It's just, I sounded the alarm. They made the amendments. I didn't know that the amendments were made. And then I went through a whole freaking year of not knowing, 2 years of not knowing. And then I updated my website recently. So now they have a definition for sexual abuse, sexual assault. In Hawaii, the legal definition of sexual abuse generally refers to non-consensual sexual contact or conduct, including assault, which is rape. Okay, so when they say assault, it's referring to an adult who was raped. Molestation means it's referring to a minor. So anyone who is 18 and under, they call it molestation. Assault is rape. They call it assault when it is an adult. Okay, molestation or exploitation, often involving coercion, force, or victims unable to consent due to age, incapacity, or helplessness. It covers a range of acts from unlawful touching to penetration, defined under HRS 707 as sexual assault in the various degrees. Now, the awareness that we like to bring is one, observation and research. Okay, so observation is surveillance of your own or by others who are honest and credible sources. Be aware of your environment and how it affects your child. So mainly, when it comes to awareness, you want to observe how your child reacts to in that environment. If you see them all fidgety because one person just, all of a sudden someone walked into the elevator and your child gets all fidgety and they're looking at them and they're scared, that's a sign. That's a sign of, you want to look for signs of distress on your child's face. You want to look for the signs of distress on your partner's face. male or female. Because I'll tell you something. This, when it comes to sexual abuse, it can be anyone. It can be a male, female, girl or boy, adult or child. You know, we have sick people. And let me tell you, just because you have a infant, that doesn't necessarily mean that they might not try that shit. You know, they've found statistical proof that people are violating practically everything. And so my recommendation would be that you don't trust anyone until you trust someone. Until you know you can trust them. Until you know you can trust them, I wouldn't trust anyone. That's why I kind of made it a priority for me to raise my daughter. You know, I wanted to be the person to raise my daughter. Ladies, I know that being that independent women is like a prideful thing, you know, but when it comes to your family and your children, let your husband take lead in employment. Let you stay home to take care of your children. It's okay to be a full-time mommy because it would benefit your babies, especially in a society of like today. Today is not a society where you want to drop off your kids to just any old babysitter or any facility. There's been horror stories about children being abused by daycare centers, by babysitters. You know, if you can stay home, do it. Take that financial loss for maybe that several years, like until the child goes to kindergarten. Until the child goes to kindergarten, I mean, stay home and be a stay-home mom if you can. That's only 5-6 years. And nobody said this generation in this century, these are years of online side hustles. So it's not like you won't be able to work and enjoy being a mom. You can have a side hustle and still be a full-time mom. That would be the safest option for you and your family, honestly. Because if you knew half the shit that I know through the research that we do, or through the research or being part of the committees, then you too would be, you know, you too would not want to leave your kid with just any old person. You know, you too would not want to leave your child with a daycare center. You too would not want to leave your child with even family, you know, because we've come across a lot of issues, a lot of cases where it's not a stranger that abuses these children or these adults. It is people they know, like family. And it's a heartbreaking situation. But that's the reality. So if you can stay home, if you are a mom, if you're a new mom, and he is capable of covering the expenses, let him. If you are upset because you can't go on your shopping spree, sacrifice that shopping spree for the safety of your children. Sacrifice that shopping spree for the safety of your children. And for men, like, be upfront and honest with that girl when you're dating her. If that's the type of household that you want to run, let her know in the beginning. Look, I'm very traditional. I'm not going to try and take anything away from you, but there is one thing that you're not going to take away from me. If we have a kid, you're going to stay home with the child. You know, you're not going to take away the safety of my kid. You know, you're not going to take away the sanity of my kid. I'll take care of the bills while you know, be a mom. You know, be upfront with these women when you're dating them, okay? Because that's where a lot of you guys are going wrong. You guys are trying to make a whole mom, and she's not going to do it. And if you're upfront with her and you say, look, this is my expectation of someone that I'd like to have a child with. Be straightforward. Women are roundabout, but what clicks in their head is when you're straightforward. So if you're not straightforward, she gonna be roundabout, and she gonna think she can do whatever she wants, or she's going to apply whatever she wants and whatever lifestyle she wants. The next thing you know, you'll be a single dad. But if you are straightforward with her and say, hey, this is my expectation if we do have a child, and if this is not something that you would consider, then let's just stop. You know, just because I'll tell you, I promise you, you'll find another female. There's a lot of them out there. You'll find one that will have and align with the same morals that you have. Trust me. So observation is very important. Observation is extremely important. Keep an eye on the way your child reacts to people. Keep an eye on how people react to your family, your presence, and your family and your presence when you come around. I mean, you don't have to be paranoid, but just be mindful of your surroundings. And along with awareness comes research. Okay, oh, whoops. So along with awareness comes research. Search the government, local, and national sexual predator map for offenders in your community. Now, you don't have to minimize it just to your community. You can go onto one of those sexual predator maps and check if there are any sexual predators around your community, so that you know where the red zones are, and you can tell your kids, hey, stay away from there. And the great thing about these sexual predator maps is that you can see their face. So you can show your kids, you see this person right here, right there? He's a no-no. That's a no-no. Okay? What's a no-no? No-no means no talking, no following, no go by him. No-nos. Make it clear that that person is a no-no. You can also look up a search on people who work with your children, people at the school. In that case, you'll need individual names. You know, if you're gonna try and do a background check or background search on and you know, it's worth it. The safety of your child is worth it. If you have any reservations or hesitations, because you know they found sexual predators in working with kids. And you know, the crazy part about it is because you go through a background check if you work for state, but I don't know how these guys slipped through the cracks. So either one, they didn't register as a sexual offender and they weren't on the map, or two, they lied on their application, or three, they used a fraudulent identity. You know, you never know. Desperate people, when it comes to desperate situation, people can do desperate things. And that's, you know, several of the desperate things that people may do. So it's always good to have that research, but also trust your gut. The Attorney General's site also provides information on both SA and offenders. And when I say offenders, I'm talking about offenders in generally every crime. So, you know, the Attorney General's site is a good site to refer to when you want to do a background check on anyone around your kids or anyone around your neighborhood. Communication. Communication is key. Communication is essential between you and your child. Establish an open and available communication. Now, when I say establish an open and available communication, what I'm saying is always be open for them to share stuff with you, even if it seems like nonsense. You know, it seems like nonsense. What you want to do is you want to establish a rapport with your child so that they feel safe enough to come to you for anything. I know sometimes they like to talk to you. They like to talk to you when you're busy. I know. So sometimes they like to chat with you when you're busy, but when you're not busy, it's like they're silent. They're silent. Nobody want to talk to you. But once you get on that computer and once you're doing your work, boom, they start chatting with you and they're like, yeah. And it's like, it never stops. And it's like, you don't want them to have that norm of talking to a wall. Okay. So once they start chatting with you, okay, and I know you're probably you're locked into you and focused on your work, the first thing you do is you stop and you look at them. You say, okay, put it on pause. Okay, I shit you not. After the first 10 seconds, they'll stop. But the point is, you want them to know that when I speak, I get my parents' attention and I can share with them what I have to share. So you're setting a norm there. Always be attentive to your child when they express some sort of discomfort. So when they start, every child wants to have a tea time with their parent about their friends. Okay, there's one friend that'll set them off, one friend that'll make them feel like amazing. That's the point where you want to set your things aside, press pause, and look at them and listen and agree or disagree. Make that face as like, oh my God, did she really? You be their tea time friend. Okay, I'm not telling you not to be parent or to be friends. I'm telling you, at that moment, that's the moment when you establish communication with your children, and that's when you establish you'll establish this confidence and trust in them, in you, that they can come to you about anything that they need to talk to you about, and engage with them. It's actually really fun, when you engage with them and you make them feel heard. That's the objective. Make them feel heard. You don't want some freaking predator coming around and making them feel heard from some stranger. You make sure that they find that at home. They find that at home. You make sure that you establish that at home. And that's the way you do it. When you're busy, they come, they talk to you, or when they start expressing how upset they are with their friend or their boyfriend or their girlfriend, or or they talk about something that was exciting, or the teacher that annoys them. Especially that, when it comes to an adult that annoys them, stop everything and just listen. Really? What happened? Oh my God, what? And show you care. Show you care. What happened? Every parent, we all have our own personalities and we have our own characters when we react to certain things. Be yourself, but make sure that they know that they can talk to you and that they are heard. That's what you want to establish with them. You want to establish that rapport with them. You want to establish that confidence and that they trust you, that trust, and you can also be honest, just as they get older, then you can lay down more facts of honesty. But when they're young, you want to establish a relationship where they feel safe to talk to you about anything. I tell you, my kid, she'll talk to me about everything. You want that. You want to develop that. You don't want them to be dependent too much on you. You want them to have, friends and, interactions and social interactions. And sometimes, it depends. We all live, we learn, but when it comes to your kids, we only got one shot. You only got one shot with each kid. And some of you guys have, you have one shot with one child. You have one shot with your kids, your children. So make it count. Do not minimize their discomfort or downplay their feelings toward family members, friends, elders, or community members. So there was one thing that happened when I had my divorce. On my divorce decree, it was stated that, and he made it mandatory that I say nothing negative about him to our daughter. But he also made it mandatory that his first wife says nothing about the abuse that she endured with him on their divorce decree, and she agreed to it. So I wouldn't have agreed to that. But, you know, when I looked at it, I said, you know, I think that's fair, you know. But on another note, I was also really, I really wanted to get the divorce done too. So I have this habit of minimizing that, you know. My daughter has complaints about him sometimes. As long as a complaint is not coming from me, then I'm okay. But now she's an adult, so if she does complain about anything, I'm joining in. That's right, mofo. I'm gonna fucking join in. Now she's gonna learn the truth. Anyway, all jokes aside, okay? All jokes aside, you want to be sure that you don't minimize their discomfort or downplay their feelings towards family members, towards friends, elders, or community members. If they are not comfortable, do not force them to be around that person who makes them feel uncomfortable. Most SA predators are people who know the family. Most SA predators are people who know the family. Yeah. It's very sad, yeah. You would think that these things would occur with strangers, right? But it doesn't. It actually occurs more frequently with family or people who are close to the family. And that's why when you need to be aware of how they react to certain people. And if they feel uncomfortable, or if they feel they want to distance themselves from someone, even if it's grandma or grandpa, let them distance. Don't force them. When for my own, I never forced my daughter to, you know, hug anybody. When she was younger, I never forced her. I know, because that's a cultural thing in Hawaii. You know, everybody's like, oh, go see so and so, get him hug, you know, hug and kisses, blah blah blah. But for me, you know, and I think that side blinded a lot of people because I was Miss Aloha, Miss Olaloho'i Aloha, much more friendlier than I am today. That kind of sidelined them because they were like, oh, I think she'd be more Aloha than that. But not when it came to my kid. When it came to my kid, if she didn't want to hug anybody, if she felt kind of icky to someone, if she didn't want to hug them when she was, you know, a child, I wouldn't. People would get mad and they'd be like, how come you're not telling her to go hug him or hug her? I'm like, because she doesn't have to. If she don't feel comfortable, she don't have to. But that's family. I don't care. I really don't care if that's family or not. That's a close friend. If she doesn't want to hug them, she's not gonna hug them. And I would catch heat for that. But you know what? I catch heat for that any day. I'll catch heat for that on any day, on any occasion, if that means the comfort of my kid. I don't care what you say. I don't give a shit. Fight me, you're going straight jail. You when you're a parent, I'll tell you, especially single mamas, people think you're vulnerable just because you're a single mom. But I tell you something about this single mom. This single mom was so active in the community with all kinds of different organizations. You fuck around with me, I will fuck with you back. You know, I didn't look at myself as some hype, some hot shit. I wasn't. But when it came to putting my foot down on certain things, you have to. Don't back down. As a single mom, most people are banking that you will. They're banking on you that, oh, you're a single mom. You're a single mom. Well, fuck you and that. That's what upset a lot of people. They anticipate something that ain't gonna happen. So put your foot down and stand your ground for the sake of your child. And sometimes some of those fights can be uphill battles, but you keep fighting it. You keep fighting it. There's people out there that just want power trips. You know, they just don't want to be told what to do. That's the kid and the generation where the parent gave them every fucking thing they wanted just to shut them up. The parent never teach them lessons. The parents just wanted them to shut the fuck up. This parent doesn't do that. I don't do that. I don't give her shit just to shut the fuck up. I want to teach her stuff. I want to teach her morals. And you know what? When I was a teacher, I do the same thing with my students. I teach you morals. I teach you safety. I teach you, of course, the lesson. But I taught every single one of my students in every single one of my classes, from the ALC class, which is a last chance class, like to the kids that had rap sheets and I had to work with them an individual, to my Hawaiian studies classes. I taught them all how to be a good person first. How to be a good person first. How to strive and how to dream and how to, reach goals and how not to give up. But also how to be humble and how to do good by other people. You know, if there's anything that you want to instill into kids, it's that. They naturally have it in them to want to love, and want to love and be a safe person. But they need safe people first. They want to do good things in life. All these kids, they want to do good things by people. They want to be good people, but they need to be taught by good people. They need to be surrounded by good people, and it's unfortunate that the reality of it is it's a fucking 50-50 chance sometimes. So as a parent, you have to take the initiative to watch your kid, be aware of their surroundings, and communicate with them. Develop a strong communication with them. So the last part of the method that we use is action, or what to do. And action is prevention. Be updated and aware of new offenders on the SA offender maps. Be mindful of people who make your children feel uneasy. Do not downplay any of their feelings regarding someone who makes them feel uneasy. Take steps to safeguard your children, even if it means bringing awareness to the community. Talking to the community is not a bad thing. At some point, people shed this negative light on community members that were informing other community members about others. Yeah. So they became known as Karens or gossipers. But I'll tell you what, that Karen and that gossiper sometimes saves lives. Now, when I say Karens, I think, because I've seen people who, speak out obnoxiously. And then I also see people who speak out and they have good intent, and both of them, they get placed in this Karen category. And I think that's inappropriate. There are people who keep people informed, and then there are people that stir up the pot. Okay, and their names are not Karen. So, be one of those people who keeps the community aware, but be sure that you're running on facts and not just making up your own bullshit because you hate that person. So that's where the moral kicks in. Even if you hate someone or even if you don't like someone, don't make up lies about them, because it's not going to help someone else. It's not going to help so like, I don't know if they took this out of the children's book section, or they're not teaching kids anymore, but there's that little boy who cried wolf or some shit like that. So he kept making lies about the wolf, the wolf attacking the herd or seeing a wolf, and then one day he actually saw the wolf and nobody believed him. So don't be that person. Don't be that person who goes around making up bullshit stories about people, and it's all lies just to make that one person look bad. Because when people find out that you're full of shit, one day you're gonna tell the truth and nobody gonna listen. So to avoid that, always speak truth. even if you hate the person. Or if you're gonna talk shit about them, talk shit about them and just say, I just don't like them. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's true, but I fucking don't like them. You know what I'm saying? And have I done that? Yeah, I did. I actually said that. Like, if I don't like somebody, I'll say something. It might be something stupid, but then I'll also end it with, I don't know if it's true. I just don't like them. Probably not true. I don't know. Maybe. You know? But if you start making up stupid ass like stories about somebody and you know it's not true, you just hate them because you got issues, then that's not gonna help you, and it ain't gonna help nobody else either. Okay, so what's going on here? Okay, the slide does not want to slide down. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, ooh, what did I do? Okay, so these are, this is this parent guide is a guide that I created last month, and I'm not using my computer. So this is giving me some problems right now. All right, show me the categories. Let me reopen this. Oh, ooh, oh, okay. So anyways, I know it off the top of my head anyway, some of it. So when it comes to your school, okay, when it comes to your school, if your child, you know, if your child feels hesitant or does not trust someone, tell them that, you know, don't be alone or in isolated areas with anyone that they do not trust. Matter of fact, don't be in isolated areas, period. Develop a habit of being around people. Develop a habit of being in a crowd. Some of the kids, you know, we have a lot of emo kids we have a lot of like emo kids. Because, you know, anime is a thing. And most often that anime culture, they like to be alone. You know, it's like this isolation thing where it's super cool, but it's not. It can be harmful to them, you know. And so you want to teach them not to be isolated, not to be in isolated areas where they're with people that they feel uncomfortable. Okay. And in the case that if an adult, whether it is their teacher, counselor, administration, teach them not to be afraid of authority figures. I mean, I'm not saying be defiant to authority figures, but teach them not to be afraid. Majority of the times the kids, you know, they're kind of afraid. They're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to speak their mind. Okay. In most public school settings, that's the case. In most private school settings, that is the case, but it's not the case. Because most private schools, we teach the kids how to be leaders, and speaking up is one of those traits. But they do show fear when it comes to authority figures. You know, the thing that they should be saying, some of them hesitate to say. Like, a teacher makes me feel uncomfortable because he leans over me. And it makes me feel uncomfortable, but I don't want to say anything because he's going to jeopardize my grade. So those are the type of scenarios that you want to talk to them about. It's going to be hard for some kids to come to you and you know, share that. But that's actually that is a true situation. Those are real stories. Those are real things that actually happen. So when if a teacher or a student is being harassed or being stalked, that is an action of sexual harassment. If they're being stared at too long, that could be perceived as an act of sexual harassment. Intentional touching or brushing their hand against their body or body parts, that is sexual assault. Or in a student's, so for college students, that's considered sexual assault. For high school students, because you're still a minor, that's considered sexual molestation. So even if they were to, if you tell them they shouldn't be touching you, you know, there's some teachers that pat you on the back, but if I'm not mistaken, they passed a rule in the public school system that they cannot touch you. So that can be perceived as a form of sexual molestation if they touch you in an appropriate manner. Sexual comments, literal or metaphoric, it doesn't matter. That's sexual harassment. And then of course, quid pro quo, telling a child if they do a sexual act, that they will get a passing grade or they wouldn't get into trouble. Some scummy ass adults do shit like that. It's a hard discussion to have with your child. Oh, another one, this is a very important one, and this is something that the parents, you really gotta talk to your kids about. Taking indecent videos and pictures of them. Okay, I am not saying that that's a fucking norm, but shit like that does happen, and that is sexual abuse. Now, the course of actions that you can take is, one, report it to administration. Okay, report it to administration immediately. Two, make a police report. Most often, the administration is going to make the police report. But in the case that they don't, which would be fucking unbelievable, you go ahead and make the police report and make sure you get a report number. Okay? Now, when you report, if the administration does nothing for you, if the administration blows that shit off because, I don't know, for whatever reason, okay? Because I've seen and I've also experienced in the public school system with some of the office staff, they're not very nice. Some of them can be freaking obnoxious biatches. So if the administration does not move on your report and nothing happens where they take steps to safeguard your child and your child feels unsafe, then you report it to district. Okay, that's higher than administration. You report it to the school district. Not every district is the same. You'll have to find out what is your school's district, and then you report what happened. Make sure you get the dates, make sure you get the time, make sure you write down the incident. Always, always, always document. Now, you're going to turn all that information, including the police report, to the district administrator. Most often, the district administrator will take steps to safeguard your child. 2, take your child to the pediatrician. That's the one step most people don't take. So when if your child is a victim of some form of sexual abuse, even if it was just, harassment, it's just words, it's still going to affect them psychologically, emotionally, and God forbid it ever occurred physically, But take them to the pediatrician. Take them to their pediatrician, explain what happened, and have them have a talk, and you all have a talk about what happened. Your pediatrician can be one of your greatest advocates. Do not take your child back to that school if they feel unsafe. Even if the school threatens you with, oh, she'll fail and he or she will fail, and they'll get pushed back another year. Don't believe that bullshit. That's not your failure, that's theirs. So they have to take accountability for that shit, and make them take accountability for that shit. Do not put your baby, your child, back in that situation because the school forces you. You fight. You say no. Either you get rid of that person, or you give me a damn district. Don't ask them to give you a district exemption. Don't tell them to give you don't tell the administration of that school to give you a district exception. I personally think that would be a bad idea. Maybe you can get some legal help and they can help you, but I wouldn't personally tell them about a district exception. I would talk to the district office about that. I wouldn't tell the administration of the school that your child is being a victim to that you want a district exception. They're going to find out after you talk to the district. So what a district exception is the ability for your child to move and transfer to a different school. So it might just work in your favor because, say for example, you work next to your job is a elementary or a high school, but your children go to a school where you live. You know, there's situations where the parents live in one district, in one town, but they work in a different town. With the district exception, you can actually transfer your child to somewhere that's closer to where you work. Might be easier for you. You can pick them up after school, or they can come, or they can walk to your place of work after school, and then you guys can go home together. So there are options. A district exception can be an option in that kind of situation and scenario. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to downplay what happened if they feel uncomfortable and leave them there. You don't want to send them back to a school where they were a victim. You definitely don't want to do that. If they have to stay home to feel safe, then I would let them stay home. I would let them stay home, and I would correspond through email. And I would tell them to, you know what, send an email to each one of your teachers asking them about the assignments, and if there's alternative assignments that they can provide your child for, like projects. If there is an alternative for that grade. And maybe in some cases, I think they would allow you to do that throughout the year. And then you can actually go for the district exception if they fail to take administrative action against the teacher. So, you know, you have options, you just can't give up. If your child has been a victim of a sexual abuse at the school, you're not helpless, girl or guy. For parents, you are not helpless. You have options, and you should take these steps. Yes, it's going to be a process, but for a good cause. The safety of your child is always a good cause. So remember what? Report to administration, make a police report, and take your child to the pediatrician to get checked and to let the pediatrician know what's going on. The pediatrician, your child's pediatrician, plays a huge role in advocacy and in your child's growth. Okay, so always keep those three involved in anything that happens. Even like psychological stress, let your pediatrician know. And then if the administration fails you, which, you know, it does happen, then go higher, go district. District is not the end. If district fails you, go up to the board of education. If the board of education fails you, then you go to your legislators. If they fail you, there's higher. You keep going higher. And, you know, I am pretty sure that before you reach to those heights, there will be a solution. And homeschooling is also another solution. There's programs online that can help you with homeschooling. But if you have teaching experience, or if you feel like you have a good homeschool is a different beast. There's so many benefits to homeschool. And this is coming from someone who homeschooled my child's last semester. So we can get into that at some other time. Now, in this parent guide, I also have resources and guidance. There's further guidance. So it kind of feels like it's a repetition of what to do, but it's really not. When you read this, it seems like a repetition of words, and it's like that for a reason. It's so that it is engraved in your mind that these are the steps. These are the steps. Call 911, make a report with HPD, call the administration, report the incidents to the principal who is administration. If the administration does not support you, basically everything that I just told you, it's in the resources and guidance column. The next is family. Yes, unfortunately, family can also be a sexual predator. So if family makes sexual comments and sexual comments, sexual touching of body parts, taking videos and pictures, quid pro quo, if you do something sexual, I will reward you. or I will not say that XYZ and get you in trouble with your parents. Those are all forms of sexual harassment and sexual assault. Okay. Now, the reason why you're going to actually have that discussion with your kids is because it might be happening and they may not know what it is. Most often things go unreported because the kids don't know, or the victim doesn't know that they're being a victim. That is grooming. So if they don't know what these things are, how do you expect them to report them to you? And that is why you have to have these difficult conversations sometimes with them. You know, when it comes to the younger ones, like, there are like videos that you can teach them or show them. It's on the YouTube. There's videos where they have songs and they're telling them, this is my body part, you don't touch, you know, things like that. Let them watch that, you know, because then it'll click. Oh, that's right, on the video it said that this is my body part here, you don't touch, but that person tried to touch it. So they know that, oh, that's wrong, that person is not supposed to do that. Then they can tell you. And that's why you want to have these hard conversations and these difficult conversations, you know, or you want to introduce them to that video so that they know, okay, this is my private area and this is my private space, and no one should be, you know, intruding in that private space. You're going to save your kid's life. You're going to save your kid's sanity. You might even save, you know, the kids around you. The whole point is to bring safety and awareness to your family and to your community so that there are less victims. You'd be surprised how many victims there are out there that are unreported. So again, you're going to make a police report, contact your community organization. So sometimes in these cases where it's family, some situations is because they rely on that family member. So if it is the dad or the uncle or the grandma or the grandpa or the mom, if it's one of those key family members, authority of and you are the other, and you are the parent or you are the safe parent, it puts you in a hard position. But let me tell you now, you don't have to be in that position. Okay? Because you have resources in the community that can help you. There are resources in this community that can help you. Okay, if you're worried about rent, there are many resources in the community that can help you with that. If you're worried about food, there are many resources in the community that can help you with that. One of my positions was housing coordinator, housing support coordinator. So basically what I did was I worked with victims who were victims of sexual abuse, victims of drug use, victims who were houseless before, and I would teach them how to utilize the resources in their community to keep them stable. And then, of course, you know, you'd be surprised at some of the really important everyday activities that you need to know as an adult. You know, some adults don't know. So like simple things like cleaning and cooking, you know, transportation. These things can be helped, and you can protect your kids, and you can protect your family, and you can lose that abuser. You don't need the abuser. You don't. If someone abuses you or abuses your child, and that's a family member, safeguard yourself and safeguard your kids. Because although they might be a source of income, you have support. You have support in the community. The thing is, you have to do some work. And doing work, you have to reach out to people. You have to reach out to these community source resources. And that's what our nonprofit organization does. We are one of those sources that you can reach out to, and we will help you. We will help you. We will help you we will help you find the resources you need so that you can be independent and protect your child. You can be independent and protect yourself. Kind of enters into domestic violence too, but that's a whole nother beast. Sometimes they merge together. So sometimes the sometimes DV and SA merge together. So, you know, there's a collaboration between two organizations. It's just know that you're not alone. Know that you will have help. Know that there is help out there. But know the signs. You know, don't ignore the signs. We have enough broken people in this world. You don't need to generate more because you're too afraid to take that step to protect them. Okay. Friends of the child or your friends can also be sexual predators. Somebody that you know for years, you never knew that they were kind of sexually deviant because maybe they were watching some shit online. You know, sexual comments, sexual touching, body parts, taking videos, all of that same thing. The same thing with family members can pertain to friends, and you take the same steps. You know, you make a police report, contact community organizations, remove the child from any contact with that predator, report the incident to your child's pediatrician always. But in this case, when it comes to friends and family, TROs are an option. So what is a TRO? A TRO is a temporary restraining order until you can go through the court system and get a, you know, restraining order, an RO. Now, for those, I would recommend that you contact legal services. Legal Aid Society of Hawaii is one of the services that are available to families who have low income. And then there's also, you know, attorneys like Levitt, Yamani, and Solner who focus on sexual abuse. They can help with that. That's one of their fortes. That's one of their categories that they actually work with now. I think this is an additional category because I'm not sure if they worked with sexual abuse before, but now they do. So they are one law firm that does work with sexual abuse. And then, of course, the Attorney General's office. Yeah. I don't know about, yeah, you would have to contact the Attorney General's. I will get back with you guys on that one. Now, there's one other category that I have for the Parents Guide. And this is the one that sometimes is overlooked. And it's the extracurricular activities. Yes, the extracurricular activities that you enroll your kids in. So most often when you enroll your kids into extracurricular activities, and when I'm talking about extracurricular activities, I'm talking about sports, I'm talking about martial arts, I'm talking about which falls into the category of sports. I'm talking about any recreational activity. You never know. Boys and Girls Club, YMCA. You never know. There may be a sexual predator there. You know, they have to work kind of close with your kids. So you want to be sure that you make it a priority to let the staff members and the coaches know that you love your kid. So what I would always do as a prior coach is I would always recommend that the parents come down and watch their kids. Yeah. Come down, go down, show face and show presence. Don't just drop your kids off and leave them there. Okay, yay, okay, football, drop them off, just leave, come back later on, pick them up. Actually take the time, and this is coming from a coach. I was a baseball coach. My parents had a baseball league. It was called the Steelers in Hawaii. It was minor league. So take the time after you enroll your kid into whatever sport it is. Take the time to go down and watch their practices. Watch their practices. Man, be active. You don't have to go down every single day, because most often working parents, they can't, you know, but take at least one day out of the week to go down, show face, talk to the coaches. After when you pick your child up, or after or before practice, get to know them, go up to them, shake their hand, and introduce yourself, and just say, "Oh, I'm so and so's dad, or I'm so and so's mom, and how's she doing, or how is he doing?" When you engage in that conversation with the coaches, it tells them that remember, these predators, they're gonna prey on people who are vulnerable. So if you leave your kid isolated and you leave your kid as if they don't have any support, then these predators are gonna fuck with. They're most likely going to zero in on your kid. Now, for me, this is coming from someone who's very independent. Even when I was playing sports, when I was growing up and I was playing sports, as a young adult, it's unusual because most people don't remember me for playing sports. They remember me for having super ass long hair and always being a hula dancer. So that's what I was known for: Tahitian dancing, hula dancing, Hawaiian studies. But they failed to see that I actually played sports. And for some strange reason, student government. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, I was always in student government, but then after high school, I was like, fuck that. So they always see me for that. But I was always one of those very independent individuals. It wasn't that I never had family. I was related to all of those, majority of the district, fucking majority of the island. It's just I was super independent because I was always around family growing up. Being around family growing up, it's kind of a little bit it's kind of not overwhelming, but it's very congested. I was trying to find my own path, be my own individual, and people were scared to approach me because my family members. So for me, being independent is something that I chose. It's not that it's something that I was forced into. It's something that I choose. I choose to be independent and do things on my own because I was always around family when I was growing up, and I have family. People are intimidated by my family and they don't want to bother me, and I want friends. So I would do things on my own, and people would assume that I had no one when that's far from the truth. So at times I may have been one of those targeted individuals until they found out, no, she had plenty of family. She got a lot of family. But what my point is that you don't want to do that to your kid. Me, I chose to do that during my adult years. My adult years, that's when I chose to be misisolated. But growing up as a teenager, I always had my family with me. I always had a group of friends. I always rode with people. So it was less likely that I would become a victim of some of those situations because I always had family with me. And if my parents ever caught wind of somebody that was not safe, they would take the steps to safeguard me or my siblings. Okay, so, and I feel really bad for the other person. However, that's what you have to do. You have to take the steps to safeguard your kids. If you leave them isolated and make it seem like they have no support, then they're more likely they're going to be a target. As I became an adult, I broke away from the crowds because I wanted to have more me time. When you're always with the crowds, you have to go with the crowd. Everything that the crowd wants, you have to go with it. I wanted to break away and do me. But then I'm not going to say that actually kind of made me a semi-target. But they learn. They learned this is a different person. Anyways, don't do that to your kids. You always want to make sure that people know that they have support, that they have family, that they are loved, and that they're less likely to be a target. You want to always be sure that you give them that support. And in the case that anything does happen, you know that you are not alone. Just know, parents, that anything does happen, you're not alone. You have support. You have people who care about you in the community. Our organization is one of them. HTPH Therapeutic Support Services. We are one of those organizations that do care for you. I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are, but I will still love you, and I will still, try to help you. And it's very important for parents to know that you do have organizations out there in this world that care about you, that want you to feel safe, that want to help you. In a world where people seem like they don't, you still have people that do, So knowledge is power. This guide right here empowers parents to learn how to prevent their children from being victims of sexual abuse, and also to teach spouses how to also protect your own partner and protect yourself. Okay, isolation is never isolation should never be an option when you feel like you're a victim. Don't go into any isolated areas with someone that you don't trust. Always walk into the crowd. Always think about safety. Always think about the safety of your child. Always think about your safety. If you are not safe, and you have to take care of yourself so that you can take care of your kids too. And know that if you don't have, you always have someone out there. You always have resources. You're not alone. You might have to dig for some of the resources, but what I just gave you guys today is gold. And if you actually are a victim of any type of sexual abuse, or you know someone who's a victim of a sexual abuse, and you follow that guide, then you will be safe. For sure. So with that, just remember sexual abuse, April is Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. The first step to awareness is, observation, research, and applying it. Communication is key, and of course knowing what the definitions are. And I gave you all of that. I gave you every single one of that. I didn't think about coming on here and giving you guys a workshop. And most likely when I do give workshops, I'm a little more detailed and a bit more organized. But this is a heavy topic, but these occurrences are occurring more often than not. And you want to nip it in the butt, and you want to keep the statistics low. Now, the statistic is kind of, to me, I don't think it's very accurate. I think there's a lot more than being, put out there, that's being displayed. But this crime is a crime that only the community can prevent. We need each other to come together and to fight this, combat this crime as one community, or maybe one nation. This is not something that you can only combat by yourself. It's a crime that we all have to be aware of, and we all have to help each other by saying something. By saying something, even confrontation. You got the police too, but also confrontation, as in saying, I see what you're doing and you better stop. You know what I'm saying? See what you're doing, you better fucking stop. Just calling them out sometimes is gonna help. But just know that if you want to protect your family, the first thing you need is knowledge. And this guide is definitely gonna help you. It gives you that knowledge. So I'm gonna post it up on my website. I'm gonna post it up here too. And then of course on the HCPH Therapeutic Support Services Facebook page as well. So if you need it, if you are a person who is in a situation as such, then you can message me, and I will definitely try to help as much as I can. So with that, I hope you guys have a amazing rest of your guys' weekend, and until the next tea time, love, peace, and aloha.